All right. Hello, everybody. So welcome to the Veloren code review number 2. And so this is something that I just kind of wanted to run. Oh, wait, I wouldn't want to listen to myself. There we go. So I just started wanting to run this because like it's super easy to just hop in a call with someone, go do a little bit of code review with like one of the other core developers of Veloren. And the bigger thing I want to do is kind of just show what we do when we go through and look at some code and like what we might comment on or what some of the insights are from some of the core devs. And so today with me, I have Sam, and we are going to go and take a look at the rework of the SCT. And I don't know what this is. So, Sam, I'll hand it over to you.
Okay, so I guess to give a bit of context on what this MR is aiming to do, SCT or scrolling combat text are the sort of damage numbers or healing numbers that will appear above entities when they are damaged or healed. And there are a few issues with it. Currently, it just reads the last change in the health component. But if there's multiple instances of health change that happen in one tick, then all but the last one are missed. So this can lead to some cases where, say you have a bleed proc happening while you hit someone, you might only notice the damage from the bleed proc, and it looks very small amount of damage since you expected to have hit them with a sword. And so this reworks it so it, rather than looking at the last change in health, it looks, each instance of damage will send an outcome to the client. And so I'll go through it quickly. So let's see what has changed here. So you can see the person that did this added a couple fields to the health change struct, an optional crit multiplier, and an instance. And we can go through here.
What does instance imply?
I'll go through and find out. Based off the comment here, it seems to be used to sort of uniquely identify an attack or a particular health change.
So, okay. So if I was going to send like there was like several pieces of damage to happen to a thing in one tick, then I could send it all with the same instance ID.
Not exactly. So it's, let's say two people attack a single target in the same tick. I'm pretty sure it's used so it can display two different damage numbers, one for each attack. And then based off the comment here, so slashing damage specifically has a chance to deal 2 instances of damage, and so this looks like it would group those 2 instances of damage. But so like if there's one attack that does slashing, there's 2 instances of damage, and this would group it. But if there's 2 separate attackers, this would split up each attack to be a separate one.
Okay, I see.
I'm pretty sure. I only briefly looked through it before starting the review, so I'll find out more as I keep reviewing. So looking here, this adds the 2 new fields to basically when a new health component is created, so that all looks fine. Adding a bool to change by.
And does that specify whether or not something actually changed, I guess?
That's what I'm looking at now. So it then returns the current minus the previous. Okay, so it's just checking that, yeah, the change in health.
Actually above 0.
The sort of epsilon that we use for this. However, this is already here. What is this here for? One thing that could potentially be better to do here is to... So health is weird in that it internally uses integers to track the values, but for anything that interacts with it, it uses floats. And so since we're internal here, we should just be able to use integers instead of the comparing floats. So I'm actually going to add a comment on that. Then going through here, same as the new, just adding that to a new instance of a health component. And this is just a test, so that's fine.
Just a trick I want to mention. I'm not sure if you know about it, but if you want to, like, do you know how to like comment on multiple lines without like specifying the drop down afterwards?
I do not actually know.
If you click and drag, like on that.
Oh,
yeah,
interesting.
A bit laggy, I guess, but
these are all for tests. So finish going through this, so you can mark it viewed or close it. So going through here now. So looking at this, it seems to
just be updating
a new instance damage, but this isn't for a health change, so I'm going to come back to that. This also, that's attack damage. So I want to go through, I'm just going to skip to the combat file, which I happen to already know that that's where the attack damage struct is defined. Where is that? There it is. So as before, it just looks to be adding an instance used to identify a particular bit of damage. It might be worth thinking about not just having a random value, but it is a use 64, so the chance of that being the same is rare.
Yeah, I'm also curious on like with using a random number, is there any performance hits that it would take? I mean, it's like a one-off thing. It's not hit very much.
Yeah, there might be, but attacks generally aren't something that will happen every tick. Like there's probably like at most one attack per second per entity.
Oh yeah,
and even then there's probably gonna be a lot fewer than that. So it's probably not too much of a performance concern. But I'm also not the best person to ask about performance concerns.
Now, if there was a collision, what would it do? It would just be an error on the side of you seeing the scrolling text?
Maybe. Haven't actually looked that far down yet, so that's something I can find out. So see here, instances defined ahead of time. I'm actually going to go and recommend that it be done for this as well. So this is just generating the instance for beams, combo melee, shockwave. So those are all basically the same, just generating that instance. Look at your health change, a new argument is added to it. Just gonna skip down and look at that. Where is that? Accumulate health change. Strange. Let me try to locate that quickly. Oh, here it is. Okay, so it's adding the instance argument there to add it to the generated health change. So that's all good. That looks good. This is adding the crit multiplier and the instance to health change generated from healing, from lifesteal, from the other side of healing and lifesteal. So for slashing, when it does the extra damage, passes in the crit there and uses the damage instance.
With the crit, I'm curious what like the syntax here. So is crit dot then, what just down a little bit. Yeah, what does this do exactly?
So is crit is a bool or a boolean, and the then syntax checks if it's true, and if it is, it creates sum and whatever this value is.
Oh,
And
otherwise
if
it's none.
the boolean is
That's so
false,
cool.
then it goes none. There's also then sum, which is probably I'm never sure when to use the then versus then sum, since they seem to do about the same thing. But
I imagine they compile to be the exact same thing.
yeah. And then the other change here is the emission of a damage outcome is removed.
So that's the emission is like a signal that would be passed to the client, I guess.
Yes.
Okay. So we're just moving that to somewhere else.
Yes, probably. So I'll mark that viewed and maybe come back to it. So outcome, new struct is added, damage info adds a few bits of info there. The damage outcome has this information added to it in addition to the what previously was just a position. So that all looks fine. Buffs. Okay, when it emits a health change, it just outputs that. Anti-manipulation file. When a poise change happens, if that poise change would deal damage, okay, that outputs. So similar to how slashing has a chance to, or not has a chance, has the potential to deal extra damage. Dealing poise also does, but poise also generally comes from attacks, so it's potentially worth trying to get that instance of damage from the attack, or not instance of damage, the instance used to identify the attack into this, to use as the instance here. And then health change. Okay, so we get outcomes in here. So rather than emit the damage outcome when handling the attack, we do it all the way here at the handling the health change, which means it's going to end up getting the majority of health changes, since, or not the majority, it should get all of the health changes, but it'll get a much larger percentage of the health changes, since almost every health change will go through this function. I can't think of any that currently don't, but there's probably one example. Just
Can I get you to increase just the size of the text just a little bit? I'm taking a look on YouTube, and for whatever reason, like I can see it perfectly clear on. I can see it perfectly clear on StreamYard, but on YouTube, it's like down-resing itself a bit.
Is this good, or do you need me to increase it a bit more?
Yeah, I think this is pretty good.
Okay, so looking at here, grabs the outcome resource, adds a mutable boolean. Okay, so it's checking if the health change does actually change the health. This is needed in the cases where I'm assuming an entity would die and thus have no more health to change, but there's still a few health changes waiting in the queue to be applied. So make sure it only applies what is actually dealt to, I guess, an alive entity. Checks position UID. Okay, that's to get the information for the outcome. And then what changes here? Okay, so when we apply fall damage, we're changing here to, rather than manually accessing health, to go through that health change. It looks like, yeah, the health change server event. Random instance, using time. Yeah, that all looks fine. There's none. Oh, none's a damage contributor, I think. Okay, so entity manipulation looks fine. CMD. Commands, yeah, that looks fine. Contributor. What's this for? this is probably fine. I might need to go double check on what can apply an effect. Let's see. Okay, now here's where some of the more important changes happening, since oxygen is where we want the scrolling, or is where the scrolling combat text exists. Damage. Okay, this is checking that it's damage, not healing. Otherwise, it is the same. Audio is good. Here are the floaters. Might skip past this a bit. Okay. So then in the floaters, removing that import, adding a constant. Removing that from the join. What did health used to do? Here's a comment I made when I reviewed this 2 months ago, before additional changes were made.
Why is join needed? Is it are they in threads?
So join, when you want to iterate over multiple components, you need to use join, since it'll only grab entities that have all of the components, unless you throw a maybe in front of one of the components.
Oh, it's an ECS thing. Okay.
So like yeah, it's an ECS thing, not a rest, or not a thread thing.
Yeah.
But since there's one component, I don't think join should be needed. It's possible specs is a bit weird, and I might be wrong here. Zester or Ingress would know a bit better.
I saw a mention from chat. Socks Anime said, "What are the chances at the exact time I start to work on the SCT rework?" Again, there's a code review on the MR. Beautiful. We'd love to see it.
Yeah, so no longer check UID there. Remove entity and health from the HP floaters. Check if health has changed. Okay, so yeah, this is previously where we were checking basically the last health change, which was what had the issue. So that's all removed.
Okay, and actually, do you want to go back up to the to-do there, just so we can read through the, or just like in the red, in the, or down a little bit, just in the property that's taken out, so we can see like what if multiple health changes occurred since the last check here. So that's basically what we're trying to do. Is just
that's what's fixed by, rather than getting health changes from the health component, which only shows the last change, we send an outcome of a health change to the client. But yeah, most of this I don't think is too important. I might reference it again when looking at how the new floaters are implemented. The existing floater. Don't care about last HP floaters. Most of the logic here is, let's see if the last floater has a timer. Okay, this just clears the floaters if they've been there too long, it looks like. Then we go to components and oxygen. Okay, so rather than HP change, we're taking a damage info from was previously defined in an outcome file up above somewhere. Last HP. Oh yeah, we don't need it anymore since outcomes. Then the HUD. If you want total change. This is finds the damage. There's a timer, font stuff, text widget stuff. And then now there's multiple damage floaters. Okay, so it's only grabbing the damaged ones. If there are is at least one damage one. It gets a total damage dealt by all of them. Damage rounded. Okay. Not sure what that is used for exactly. What is it used for? Oh, it's used to control the font size. Okay. Yeah, it's probably fine. Timer.
Soxanime says that's used to prevent font size from becoming too large.
Okay, so yeah, it was just the font size. Expect, yeah, it's fine. We checked there's already at least one damage floater.
This crit one right here, I was looking through this and isn't it just trying to like see if there's any crits in, like, why does it have to reverse to go from the end of the list to find any crits? Like, is it more likely that at the end of the list there are crits?
Potentially. I think it's more with how floaters are set up. So if we go back, is it here? Yeah, if we go to here, it looks like it might not clear floaters until
all so you want to find from the end.
Okay. Are done. Or no, hold on. I'm trying to remember how floaters work. It's been a while since I've looked at them. So floaters, like when you take a damage, it'll sort of sit there on the screen for a second or so.
Oh, so floaters means the things that are moving up that you're trying to represent.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so those will be there for, like, they won't be there for a single instant. They'll be there for like a second or 2 seconds or however long it is. I think there's a constant somewhere up here.
Okay.
I forget where it is. But so reversing it gets the most recent one, which I think is what we want here. So yeah, reverses it, finds if any of them have crit multiplier. Oh, okay, it's just checking that there is a crit. Okay, and then the crit multiplier gets... Hold on, this is different functionality, but why are these different? If crit multiplied by that. Okay, for convenience, I guess. That font size if timer is less than... Okay, that's just getting the font size. And this is so the floaters rise, I think.
And just to confirm with the font size, it has like an else 0 at the end. So it's like if it's already past, if it's past the point that it should be shown, then make it 0 because it's still going to be in the queue of floaters, but it's not cleared out yet.
No, so the else 0 here is for the timer, it looks like. So if the timer is very small, flash max, I'm assuming that's a constant for something. 1.0 minus timer. So as timer gets smaller, this value gets larger. I think it's to do something with the font size as it's about to go away. Since there's plus, I'm assuming it makes the floater bigger as it's about to disappear.
Yeah.
I'm assuming foul was probably the person that sort of set it up. Yeah, it looks to be old. What used to exist in the functionality, so.
Soxon may mention that the reverse is to find the newest floaters, and that they changed some of this in unpush commit. So maybe a lot of this stuff is going to be outdated once they push.
Potentially, yeah. Max HP for floater info amount. Yeah, that looks good. A crit equal. Controlling font size. A lot of the stuff is I think more UI positioning and stuff, so that's why I'm kind of skimming through it a little bit faster. Foul is probably going to be the final judge on it, and I'm assuming he'll make some tweaks to it. Yes, most of that looks fine. So, remove all the cast of F32. Okay, so from what I remember, this is somewhat related to another change that was made. So another of the reasons we wanted to move the outcomes is that it was kind of difficult to identify whether or not a particular instance of damage was a critical hit or not, which Foul wanted to sort of have that info to change the floating text when one of the hits was a crit.
Okay. So I guess like a bit.
Yeah. So these extra colors, I'm assuming, are added to change the color of the floater when it's a crit.
But instead of doing this, it would seem that it would make more sense to just apply some change to the color that already exists, and so like more of like a animation that like made it look whiter for a second because it's a crit. But I suppose these are like all the alternatives of what color.
It might be. I'm very bad at UI design, so for things like that, I tend to sort of just leave the Foul, who, I guess for those who aren't familiar, Foul is the UI lead. So crit damage colors. Is this? Okay, so that set up some of the damage colors, crit damage colors. Font color if crit. Okay, so it does look to be kind of set up the way you were mentioning, maybe. I don't know. As is probably apparent, I'm less familiar with Voxygen code than I am with code in common in server.
All good. I'm not familiar with any of this code. I'm kind of just looking at it and commenting.
So this looks to be, I think this is a roughly parallel section here. So it gets the HP damage from all the current floaters that exist. Oh, this is probably when you check the cumulative damage option for SCT. It gets the rounded damage, timer, font size, font color, widget offset, fading. You get the floaters again, check that they're not empty, damage, timer, crit, intro, font size. Okay, so yeah, that's just applying the changes again there. What is this for? I'm assuming this is no longer needed. Should probably check that. What did this else used to be part of? Oh, okay, so it looks to be consolidated. I used to check the value of the HP damage to show it as decimals, but now it looks like, I'm assuming there's some magic in formatting that makes it not so, if I can find it. Oh, here it is. HP damage. This might be something to check. Where is that? Okay, so G fraction, font size. Okay, so it's in progress. Options for floating, non-floating. Not sure what the distinction's for. Assuming there's some UI option that relates to that. Okay, so this is where the, I guess, important change for reviewing is in Voxgen. So it's when we take the outcome that was emitted from the server and sent to the client and convert the information in that outcome to the HP floater that's used. So you get the client ECS, you get the floaters from there. You get the UID of yourself. Get the floaters for a particular entity. Okay, so this gets, this gets the entity since only the UID is the same between client and server. Okay. Match info. If there's some person that did the damage, check if you did the damage, and then reset that. Okay. If match. Oh, okay, so this is just returning a... Okay, this is checking whether or not to do something. It's floater and floaters. Okay, so what this is doing is iterating over the floaters in reverse to get the most recent ones first. And it iterates over them until it sees that the timer is greater than 0. And so the timer should only be 0 for floaters created this tick. Otherwise it basically minimizes the amount of iteration that you need to do over these floaters. So if they have the same instance and if they have the same crit multiplier info, it adds the damage of the second instance to the first instance. What is this change? So since we check that the two crit multipliers are equal before doing this, there isn't really much point in setting these.
But we're not checking if they're equal. We're just checking whether or not they're both sum.
Okay, never mind. I can read, apparently.
I was just thinking through that as well, so no worries.
Let me check this again then. So it sets it equal to info. And if it's equal to sum, we set it to itself again. Or else we set it to... Still is something strange there, though. 4383.
Yeah, but something's still funky.
There we go. So ignore what I was saying there, I guess. So the other thing here is we set the floater info to the new damage info crit multiplier. However, after that, the crit multiplier is sum,
which we know what it already is.
Yeah. So
no, we don't know if it necessarily is.
The point is, if some condition we set it equal to what we just set it equal to, and if not, we set it equal to still the same thing.
Also, Structs mentioned this is some messy logic that they're also changing.
Oh, okay. Since it's being changed, I'll just ignore that comment for now. But otherwise, I would have added a comment to that effect. Separate healing damage floaters. If health amount. So if the amount's less than. Why is this checking less than? So checking healing and damage rather than comparing to the epsilon, it should just be checking in 0.
When would the amount be less than 0?
When it's damage. So this is just the health change. So if the health change was negative, then it would be less than 0 because it was damage. And if it was a healing thing, say from the drinking a potion, it would be positive since the health went up. Last floater. And then it sends in the client info to, which we saw here. It's sending the client to get access to the floater list. And yeah, that's this MR is fully reviewed then. Yeah, look through this file. Yeah, so I think most of this logic was moved to the HUD. Since this is okay, so this was moved to where is it? When we were importing the health change to from the outcomes. So yeah, that's I guess a full code review of this.
Cool. Yeah, I think going through this is pretty nifty, and also Structs made a good job on going through this. This is pretty cool stuff. Yeah, I like this way of sort of solving the problem of multiple damage and same tick type of stuff.
Oh, and that reminds me, this was the other thing I wanted to check. So, what exactly an effect is? So sometimes I'll just open up code since it's a bit faster to go through stuff here. Damage. When is this ever set? That's a buff effect. Angel explosion. Oh, the command prompt.
Once you finish taking a look at that, take a look at the video that Structs posted in UI UX. It's pretty dope.
I can glance at that quickly.
Or if you want to play it on screen if possible. Or are you just showing VS Code?
Here, it was on my other monitor.
Oh, that looks so cool. Oh, that's awesome. I love the way that's sort of set up.
Yeah, I'm assuming that's showing what happens when there's a crit. Oh, there's multiple training dummies in there. I see now. Okay.
Okay, nice. That's awesome.
But yeah, so looking at the damage effect, it's what was I looking at over here? When there's a damage. Okay, so it looks to be the only main place it's generated is the explosion command and for fireworks and bombs. So yeah, using a random there is fine. Since it's not from an attack, so there's no attack instance we could pass in to use. And yeah, that's a full review, I guess.
Good stuff. Yeah, so I think we can finish it off here. So submit the review, get all those comments in, and hopefully we can do another stream like this. I like keeping it nice and short, where we don't dive too deep, but we still got to go through some of the stuff. Yeah, so thank you very much, Sam, for coming and giving comments. This was very good. Cool. And then we will be back. I don't know when. Maybe next week for another code reading club. We'll see. All right. See everybody later.